In your view, how has Joe Biden done on climate issues in his first 50 days in office? What grade would you give him?
Well, you shouldn't take that from me. I'm just a teenager, so I don't have the mandate to sort of give grades like that. My opinions on this doesn't matter. You should rather look at the science and whether his policies are in line with the Paris Agreement and to stay below 1.5 or even 2 degrees Celsius. And then you can clearly see that, no, it's not nearly enough in line with the science. And that's not me saying, that's just black and white, looking at the facts.
Yeah. What would you like to see him do to fight climate change that he isn't doing, that he said he won't do? Because his administration is saying we've set up a climate office, we've set up a climate czar, we've re-signed Paris, we're conserving more land, we're undoing a lot of what Donald Trump did. What would you like to see him do that he's not doing?
I mean, I understand that it's difficult. And to be honest, I would not want to be in a politician's position right now. I can't imagine how hard it must be. But I mean, I would just like him to basically just treat the climate crisis like a crisis. They have said themselves that this is an existential threat, and they better treat it accordingly, which they are not. I mean, they are just treating the climate crisis like as it was a political topic, among other topics, and yeah, treat it as a crisis. That's the one step we need to do, and to spread awareness.
Is there a specific policy goal? If he rang you up and said, Greta, what should I do? What I can wave a presidential magic wand, executive order. What should I do that I'm not? What would you say to him?
Well, nothing, because that's not democratic. I mean, an elected leader cannot do anything without support from voters, and I would not want anyone to do anything that would not have the support, because that would be undemocratic, and democracy is the most precious thing that we have, and we must not risk that. So what we need now is to raise awareness and to create public opinion to treat the crisis like a crisis, because if people are not aware of the crisis that we face, of course they won't put pressure on the elected leaders. So I would just tell him to tell the situation as it is. Because, I mean, yes, you could say, I meet with a lot of world leaders, and they say, I can't do anything because I don't have the support from voters. Well, how can you expect support and pressure from voters if you are not treating the crisis like a crisis? Since the climate crisis doesn't exist, how can we expect people to want climate action?
That's a fair point. Joe Biden's predecessor, Donald Trump, wasn't a fan of yours, and you, like millions of others, weren't a fan of his. After you won Times Person of the Year in 2019, a jealous Trump attacked you and said you need to work on your anger management problem. Shameless conservatives around the world have demonized, smeared, insulted, mocked you, despite your age. That's the kind of thing that most adults wouldn't be able to withstand. But you were just a kid at the time. You're still just a teenager. How have you handled that?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I just find it hilarious. You need to be able to laugh at these things, because it is hilarious to see people like that, such powerful people, go after you. It really shows that you are having an impact, and that they wouldn't do it if you didn't.
Yes.
If you weren't a threat to them, so that you should take as a compliment.
Talking of impact, you are certainly someone who has massive impact globally. You inspired millions of children to shut down schools and protest against climate change. In India recently, you had people in India, supporters of the right-wing Modi government there, burning effigies of you and suggesting you were behind some sort of global anti-India conspiracy after you simply tweeted in support of the massive farmers' protests there. I know you have to be careful in what you say, because the Indian government has been targeting activists and friends of yours there. But what was it like seeing that kind of unhinged response to your activism and your voice in the second biggest country on the planet?
Well, I mean, for me, it wasn't, I wasn't risking anything, because I'm fortunate enough to live in a part of the world where I can use my voice, and where I have complete freedom of speech, and where I have the right to peaceful protest. And it just made me just just realize how fortunate I am and how privileged I am to be able to use those rights. And it really puts things in another perspective, because we take these things for granted. And in so many parts of the world, people risk their freedom or even their lives just for using these rights, these basic fundamental human rights. And that's what it all comes down to, just democracy. And so, I mean, for me, it really didn't matter, but for those who actually are risking things, yeah.
And there are a lot of people in India risking a lot there as activists.